Chapter 3, Inequalities. In Chapter 3, there are 4 subchapters. Now let's look at those 4 subchapters. Chapter 3.1 is Introduction to Inequalities. Chapter 3.2 is Linear Inequalities and its Applications. Chapter 3.3 is Absolute Value. Chapter 3.4 is Applications for 1 and 2 variables. Okay, let me explain briefly. Now the first one is of course Introductions to Inequalities. So you will learn 4 different signs like greater than, less than, greater than equal, and less than equal. You will see on how to write inequalities. Okay, there are in a form of drawing in a graph. Okay, so that one will be in 3.1, and then we also have 3.2, which is linear inequalities and applications. So that means you just solve a linear equations. And 3.3 is absolute value. So what if you have absolute value of inequalities? For example, 3x plus 4 greater than 5. So this is absolute value. Okay, and then 3.4 is applications for 1 and 2 variables. So that means you have more than one variables. For example, 3x plus y greater than 5, and then you have 2y plus x is less than or equal to 4. So these are called 2 variables of inequalities. Okay, we do one by one. So for this video, I will cover on 3.1 Introduction to Inequalities and 3.2 Linear Inequalities and its Applications. Okay, upon the completion of this course, you will have the ability to solve problems involving inequalities and absolute values. Chapter 3 will appear in your final exam, and it's more than 15 marks altogether. Okay, so it's quite a good thing if you really understand, because it's very easy to solve and it's actually easy to understand. It's not really that complicated at all. All right, so let's do it. Let's do 3.1 Introduction to Inequalities. So for Introduction to Inequalities, we do 3.1.1, the definitions. Now these are the symbols that you'll be using throughout this chapter. Okay, you have this greater sign. Okay, this is a greater sign. And then you have less. Okay, this is less, this is greater than or equal to, and another one is less than and equal to. Now the difference between inequalities and equalities, okay, your normal writing of equations is, for example, you have 2x plus y equal to 5. This is an equal sign. Whereas for inequalities, you're going to have some kind of this equation. You're going to have maybe greater than 5, or you're possibly going to have 2x plus y less than 5, or 2x plus y greater or equal than 5, 2x plus y less than or equal to 5. So these 4 is absolutely different way of solving than the equal sign. Let's look at what's the difference between these inequalities and a normal equations, equal equation, right? For example, if you have x equals to 2, so if I draw an x-axis, okay, this is x-axis, okay, you have the x then y again, but see x then but see y. So let's draw only the x-axis. Now you have a point 0, and then next to it you have point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4. Then this is -1, -2, -3. Let's say x equals to 2. That means your x lies over here. Okay, this is your x equal to 2. Now what if you have x is greater than 4? So that means the value of your x is from 4 to infinity. Okay, is everything lies in here. And if you have x, for example, x is less than 1, so that means all the value of your x goes all the way to this, the left hand side. So that is the difference between greater than and less than. And also this is the difference between the equal sign here. Okay, for equal sign, there is only one solution, one point. Right? Whereas if you have greater than or less than, it could be any points which is less than x. For example, this green region. Okay, kawasan yang berwarna hijau. Another example is that, let's say you're given a line, x, and then you have -4, 0, 2. Then you have another point in the middle somewhere here. Say this is a point A, and then this is a point B. From this sketching, okay, daripada drawing ni, you know that does A greater than B or B greater than A? Kalau soalan saya tanya, adakah A greater than B ataupun B greater than A? So what will your answer be? Yes, the answer is B is greater than A. So B lebih besar daripada A. This is the definitions of inequalities. Now we look at the notations. Bagaimana cara untuk menulis inequalities. Okay? Now when you want to find a solution for inequalities, ada cara untuk menulis. Okay, there are special way of writing your answer to your inequalities problem. So ini dipanggil interval notation, cara untuk menulis. Okay, notation ni adalah bermaksud penulisan. Okay, there are 3 cara, 3 different ways. Either you write in inequality form, dalam bentuk inequality, or you can write in a graph form, dalam bentuk graph, or you can write in an interval notation, dalam bentuk interval. Dalam soalan, if the question doesn't ask you anything, like for example, the question asks you solve for x, so that means dia tak bagi tahu you what sort of answer does it want. Okay, jenis yang macam mana, dalam inequality ke atau dalam graph or in interval notation, dia tak bagi tahu. So you can use any notations. Okay, you can write in any of this way of writing your answers. Okay, tetapi sometimes the questions really nak bagi you extra mark. So dia mungkin akan kata solve for x and write your answer in interval notation and in graph. So that means dia nak dalam bentuk interval and lagi satu dalam bentuk graph. So if you do in interval notation, if you write your answer in interval notation, you get 1 mark. And if you draw the graph, you get another 1 mark. So the way of writing ada 3 jenis. Now we look at the first one. Now the first column is inequality. Now writing in a form of inequality maknanya kita letak dalam bentuk selang, ya. That means x is in the middle. Okay, solution you adalah in the middle, x ni. Okay, ataupun dia mungkin x will be on one side or left hand side ataupun right hand side. Okay. Now anyway, the way of writing inequality in the first column, di mana kita guna this notation here, less than, equal, less than, then less. Dia macam-macam lah. Okay, either less than and less than, ataupun less than equal, then less than, ataupun greater than equal, ataupun dia ada banyak. You can pair with any. It depends on your answer. Another way of writing is by doing graph, or sometimes they call it as line graph. Line graph ni bermaksud graph ni ada satu line sahaja. Okay, so now for this graph or line graph, maknanya you draw satu paksi x and then you akan ada 2 titik. Okay, so jawapannya mungkin berada di antara 2 titik tersebut. Okay, so for example, in this example A is less than equal to x and x is less than equal to b. That means x ni berada between A and B. And if you have this less than or equal, that means you're going to have a square bracket. And because x is located between A and B, so x ni akan berada between A and B, and that include B, kita buat square bracket as well. Okay, so selang tu dia termasuk B. If it doesn't include A and B, then we have to write in a normal bracket. So that goes the normal bracket, and that's how you write. Okay, square bracket. So kalau dia like this one, the third, the C here, you have A is less than or equal, so you're going to have a square brackets, and if it's less, you know it's going to have a normal bracket. Right, so that is for line graph. Okay, so when you have a line graph, remember that when you do the bracket like this, a square bracket, so you have to draw a line in between them. Okay, so another way of writing is you draw a line and there is a point A and B. If it's include A, okay, for example, for this A here, okay, this example A, so you include A, that means you draw a point, a bold point, okay, a colored point, then you draw a line. So it is between A and B. So if it doesn't include A and B, for example, you have this line over here, point A and B, you draw just a circle, a dotted with a hole, and you draw a line between them. Okay, so in this case, the third example C, it can be written as, you can also do include A, so you have a dot, a bold dot, and exclude B, so you have a circle, then you draw a line between them. So that's how you draw a line graph. Now for interval notation, you do your interval in the brackets. Okay, so instead of doing in a line graph, you do in a bracket. So this is how you write in a bracket. So whether it is a square bracket or a normal bracket. Okay, so it depends whether it includes the point or not. Okay, so if it goes to infinity, for example, the 4 examples down here, if it's from A, for example, so from A to infinity, so that means your line graph, we have a line that going to infinity, positive way. If it's negative, so that means it goes from this point to that way. And whenever you have infinity, it is always a normal bracket. Okay, it can never be a square bracket because it doesn't have a stopping point. Infinity bukanlah titik yang terakhir. That means it will go on and on and on and God knows when. Okay, so it is always a normal bracket. So that is how you write the notations for inequalities. Now we do 3.1.3, which is rules for manipulating inequalities. Okay, you can refer your notes. These are the same. However, I make it short that there are 6 rules on inequalities. Okay, manipulating inequalities, that means how do you calculate? Okay, how do you solve for inequalities? So there are 6 rules. You use the rules according to the problem. Okay, so different problem, you use a different rule. So since there are 6 rules, so let's do it in the table. Okay, rule number 1. Let's say A is less than B, right? Then A plus C is less than B plus C. What does that mean? Okay, for example, let's say you have what is less. So for example, number 1 is of course less than number 5. So now, what if you add a number on the left hand side? Okay, so you have the left hand side is number 1 and the right hand side is number 5. If you add a number to the left hand side, you have to add the same number on the right hand side. So that means if you add a number, let's say number 2 on the left hand side, so that means on the right hand side you have to do the same thing, which you have to add 2. So when you do that, this inequality doesn't change direction. It is still less than. So that means if you add, it becomes 3 is less than 7, which is true. This is true. 3 is less than 7. So that's why this inequality doesn't change direction. Dia masih lagi kurang. Dia tidak bertukar menjadi that way. Contoh lain, what if you minus? Okay, let's say you minus. For example, juga kalau you minus, it's the same thing. It doesn't change direction. So if you have A minus C, so that means on the right hand side is also the same thing, minus C. And then what will happen is this inequality doesn't change direction. Okay, this inequality doesn't change direction. The left hand side is still less than the right hand side. Okay, so tambah tolak tidak menukar direction of the inequality. Now that is rule number 1. Tambah atau tolak tidak mengubah arah inequality. Now we move on to rule number 2. Rule number 2 says, if A is less than B, and then you have C is greater than 0, then A multiply with C, C is greater than C is a positive value, right? So A multiply with C is less than B multiply with C. That is when C is greater than 0. So that means C is positive numbers. Okay, so dia C tu bernilai lebih daripada kosong. Contoh 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So kalau sebelah kiri you darab dengan C, same goes on the right hand side, you darab dengan C, dia tidak mengubah direction of the inequality. So sama juga dengan bahagi. Tadi darab sama juga dengan bahagi. If A divided with C on the left hand side, so sama juga dengan right hand side, B divided with C, sama, direction tidak berubah. The inequality kekal sama. It's always A divided with C kurang the B divided with C. Okay, contoh example, kita nak prove, betul ke? Okay, kita prove kan. Contoh, 1 is less than 5. We do the same example, okay? 1 is less than 5. Kita darabkan dengan satu nombor yang bernilai positif. So, pick any positive numbers. Let's say I pick 2. So 1 multiply with 2 on the other side goes the same thing. 5 multiply with 2. It doesn't change direction. Now if we solve this, you get 1 multiply with 2, you get 2. 5 multiply with 2, you get 10. 2 is less than 10 and it is true. So betul lah, you darab dengan any positive number tidak akan mengubah arah inequalities. So sama juga if you bahagi. So let's say I do 1 divided with 2, and then another one, same goes as well, 5 divided with 2. Now 1 divided with 2 is you get 0.5, ya, 0.5. 5 divided with 2 you dapat berapa? You get 2.5. So this is true. Okay, 0.5 is less than 2.5. Okay, so now tambah dan tolak tak mengubah direction, rule number 1. Rule number 2, darab dengan positive number atau bahagi dengan positive number, tidak bertukar direction. Now we move on to rule number 3. Rule number 3 says, so if you have A is less than B, apa-apa nombor, A which is A less than B, and then you have a C, dan C ini adalah less than 0. So that means C ini adalah negative numbers. Then A multiply with, kalau you darab, you ada A dengan B, you darab dengan C, what will happen is, this will change direction. Okay, dia akan jadi greater than. Sama juga dengan bahagi. So if you divide A and B divided with C, which is a negative value, so you akan dapat greater than. Okay, dan you perhatikan, this inequality change direction. Dia jadi lebih besar. Dengan syarat C adalah negatif. So rule number 3 ni is very special. You kena ingat, bila you darab atau bahagi dengan negative numbers, then dia akan bertukar direction. Inequalities bertukar direction. Let's prove this. We do an example. Let's say again we have 1 is less than 5. Okay, we multiply with C. Let's see C adalah negative 2. So 1 multiply with negative 2. And then another side is the same thing as well. 5 multiply with negative 2. What I will get is negative 2 and negative 10. Okay. Dalam rule ni kata, if you multiply with negative number, it's change direction. Okay. So now you get negative 2 is greater than negative 10. Yes or no? Betul. Okay. If you draw a line graph, okay, ni kosong, ni negative 1, ni negative 2, blah, 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 and so on, you get negative 10. So of course negative 2 is greater than negative 10. So betul lah. Whenever you multiply with a negative value, the interval notation have to change direction. Now we move on to rule number 4. Rule number 4 says that any sign of inequality can be replaced by an expression equal to it. Rule number 4, if A is less than B and you have another one, say A, this A over here, okay, this A over here, in the question it tells you that this A is equal to a number, let's say C. Okay, so kalau A is less than B and A is equal to C, so that means when C is less than B. Okay, sebab A itu sama dengan C. So contoh for example, let's say A is less than 5. Okay, A is a number and that number is less than 5. And then you know that given that A is equal to a number, let's say 2. Okay, so kalau A sama dengan 2, that means 2 is less than 5. Okay, so that means A over here, you replace sahaja dengan C. So dia dapat, of course, C is less than B. So same thing, there's no changing notation of the inequality. It doesn't change the direction of the inequality. Now, we move on to rule number 5. Rule number 5, it says that if A is less than B, then 1 over A is greater than 1 over B. This is called reciprocal. Okay, ini dipanggil reciprocal. This is in your notes. Okay, reciprocal bermaksud satu bahagi. Contoh 7. Reciprocal of 7 is 1 over 7. Okay, example B. Reciprocal of B is 1 over B. Okay, so itu bermaksud reciprocal. Satu bahagi dengan nombor tersebut. So now in here it says if A is less than B, so reciprocal dia akan berubah direction. So you see akan berubah direction. Dia ubah direction So rule number 5 is special. Reciprocal akan berubah direction. So sama juga if you have a negative A and this negative A is less than negative B, so reciprocal dia juga akan berubah direction. So negative 1 over A, negative 1 over B, you get greater than. Okay, so dia berubah direction of the inequality sign. Now, last one is rule number 6. Rule number 6 says that if you have 0 is less than A and less than B, so that means A adalah positif ya. Sebab 0 adalah nombor yang paling rendah dia. Okay, tidak termasuk kosong, but that means A adalah positif. So bila A positif and A is less than B, so meaning B pun positif. So ni adalah positif. So when A and B positive, and then you have N, and N is greater than 0, right? N adalah positive values also. So ini pun adalah positive. This is also positive. If you do a power, so A to the power of N is also same, doesn't change direction, is also less than B to the power of N. Doesn't change direction ya. Direction kekal sama. So sama juga kalau you square root. So you square root with a positive number. So it doesn't change direction. It's the same thing to the power of N. Right. So now from these 6 rules, yang odd adalah, yang bertukar direction adalah rule number 3 and rule number 5. Okay, rule number 3 and rule number 5. So take note of that. Now that we have know all the rules, now we can start to solve for linear inequalities. Okay, so let's do 3.2. Okay, before we move on to 3.2, there are many applications. Okay, banyak applications yang menggunakan inequality in your life. In our everyday life, there are many situations that using inequalities. Now that we have know the notations and how to describe inequalities, so I nak tanya, do you understand? Can you figure out? I want to ask, can you figure out when do you use inequalities in your daily life? When does inequalities appear in your routines? Can you think of something? Alright, now it's actually banyak, okay? For example, speed limit. If you drive a car on the road, there is a limit. Anything that has limit, that refers to inequality. For example, the speed of your car, okay? So the speed of the car is what? On a highway is supposed to be 120 km per hour. So that means you have to have the speed less than or equal to 120 km per hour. So this is an example of inequality. Second inequality, for example, credit card. If a person uses a credit card, there is a limit. So maximum spend, so a credit card spend, you have a credit limit. Okay, for example, it depends on your salary. So you have to spend less than or equal to 10,000. So that is your credit limit. Same as you withdraw money. You withdraw money from your ATM machine. Okay, so you might put your credit limit of withdrawal for a day. So for withdrawal of your money, must be less than or equal to 3,000 ringgit. Same as goes for you reload your phone. So this phone number valid for 30 days. Okay, so that means you got the free text messaging for less than or equal to 30 days. Same goes sleeping. How long can you sleep in a day? Can you sleep in 1 hour a day? No. Can you sleep in 3 hours a day? You may get dizzy during the day. If you sleep 5 hours, yeah, you may not be in a good mood for the rest of the day. If you sleep too much, can you sleep like 12 hours? No, you get hungry, you need to wake up. You just can't. Okay, so there is a limit in your sleep. So you may need sleep like 5 hours. Okay, so at least 5 hours, but nothing. It has to be less than 10 hours, or else you'll be hungry. Or you may want to go to the toilet, or people disturbing, or the light is too shining bright. You know, you have something else to do during the day. Okay, so that is why you have a limit in your daily life. Same goes as spending money. How much can you spend a day? Can you spend like buying KFC every day? No, you can't spend like 100 every day and eat the same food, KFC, the whole bucket every day. You get bored. You can't have it too long and you can't spend too much. Okay, so you have a limit in spending, you have limit in sleeping, you have limit of having time in the bathroom, you have a limit of eating. You can eat a whole cake by yourself and you can't drink too much in a day. Okay, so those are the limits. Everybody has limits. Okay, semua orang. And for example, nobody ever live in this world forever. Everybody gonna die. Same goes as animal. They're going to die. Same goes as tree, as plants. So sama saja. Semua benda akan mati. Okay, so the same thing. It has a limit. So even the life has limits. So of course everything else has limits. Right, so now I do an example of how solving a problem related to a real case. Okay, for example, consider this problem. An 18-wheel truck stops at a weigh station before passing over a bridge. The weight limit on the bridge is 30,000. Okay, the weight limit. Ada limit ya. Untuk berada di atas bridge itu mestilah 30,000 kilogram. The taxi front of the truck weigh 9,000 kilogram. And the trailer back of the truck weighs 6,000 kilogram when empty. In kilogram, how much cargo can the truck carry and still be allowed to cross the road? So now the taxi in front of the truck weigh 9,000 kilograms. So this is the taxi. Okay, so this taxi weigh 9,000 kilograms. And the trailer back of the truck weighs 6,000 when empty. Okay, when it is empty, the weight is 6,000 kilogram. So now, how much cargo? So how much can the weight inside here? What is the maximum weight that this truck can carry and still be allowed to cross the bridge? So this is the value of X. Okay, we are finding how much can he carry in the cargo. So now the weight limit on the bridge is 30,000. The weight limit on the bridge is 30,000 kilo. Now I want you to do an equality problem. Okay, you buat satu equation yang ada lebih besar atau sama dengan. Yang ada 30,000, 9,000, 6,000 dan X. I want the one that have 30,000, you have 9,000, you have 6,000, you have X, and you have the sign, inequality sign. So, inequality mana yang you nak pakai dan bagaimana you nak menyediakan satu equation yang ada satu inequality notation. You pause this video and try to figure out. Okay, the answer is, now this truck, okay, the whole weight, okay, jumlah berat untuk truck ni is 9,000 kilogram plus 6,000 kilogram plus X. Keseluruhan berat truck ini mestilah less than or equal to 30,000 kilogram. So now you can write this equation in a form, okay, kalau you rewrite, you get rid of all the kilograms. So you can write down as 9,000 plus 6,000 plus X is less than or equal to 30,000. So if we solve for X, 9,000 plus 6,000, you get 15,000 plus X is less than 30,000. So now inequalities, dalam menyelesaikan inequalities, kita tak boleh bawa kiri ke kanan. Okay, so kenapa kita tak boleh bawa kiri pergi kanan, kanan pergi kiri? We cannot do that because this is not an equal sign. Mereka tidak sama. Kiri tidak sama dengan kanan. Mereka tidak sama. Okay, mereka ni, sebelah kiri ni is smaller daripada sebelah kanan. So now what you can do is, if you want to let X alone, sebab kita nak mencari nilai X, we are solving for X, what are the value of X? So now, to solve for X, we need to eliminate. Kita kena buang 15,000. So that means we have to minus 50,000 on the right hand side. You have to minus. So same thing on the right hand side, you kena minus 15,000. According to rule number 1, if you add or minus any number, inequality doesn't change direction. So inequality masih lagi direction yang sama. So now let's solve this. 15,000 negative, 15,000 positive. Now you are left with X on the left hand side. On the right hand side, 30,000 minus 15,000, you get 15,000. So this is the value of your X. Okay, maknanya berat kargo tu tidak boleh melebihi 15,000. Okay, is it clear? So now I want you to try and solve this another problem and figure out your... Solve this exercise. Sarah has found 3 pairs of running sneakers that she likes. Okay, one costing 150, another 159, another one is 179. She has saved 31 ringgit already, and she has a job where she earns 8 ringgit 50 cents per hour. How many hours will she have to work in order to afford any of these sneakers? Okay, so now you try to do this exercise, do an equations that contains inequalities, and then solve for the value of how many hours will she have to work in order to buy any of the sneakers. Right, nanti on Thursday, you can share your answers and I will share the solution. Okay, try to do this by your own. 3.2 linear inequalities. So let's do examples. I show you. So I show you some examples. Solve the inequality 2 times x minus 4 is less than x minus 3 divided with 3. Now, solution. You can see in this equation, you have x, okay? So you have x on the left and you also have x on the right. That means you are solving for x. So what you need to do is we want to collect x to one side and leave x all alone. Okay, so we can't bring it just like that. Okay, we can't just bring across left to the right and right to the left because this is not an equal equation. Okay, remember dia macam ada boundary tau. Sebelah kanan dengan kiri ni, left hand side and right hand side, dia bukannya sama. Okay, dia tak sama. So, kat sebelah kiri lebih kurang daripada sebelah kanan. So now, apa yang kita boleh buat? Okay, I copy back this question. It says 2x minus 4 is less than x minus 3 over 3. When you have inequality, apa yang terjadi belah kiri, the same thing happens on the right. Okay, sama saja. So kalau the first thing is kita nak kumpul x pada one side. Okay, that is what we are trying to do. The first thing is, let's say if you expand, kalau you expand dapat 2x, you expand on the left hand side, 2x minus 8 is less than x minus 3 over 3. You can nampak yang bahagi bawah ni, you might not like it. Okay, you tak suka bahagi 3. So what you're going to do adalah you multiply on the right hand side with 3, supaya you boleh cancel. Sebelah kanan you multiply with 3, so sebelah kiri also you multiply with 3. When you multiply with a positive value, it doesn't change direction. Okay, ini doesn't change direction. While you multiply positive value. Okay, so that was rule number 2. Now we expand this. 2 times 3 is 6x minus 24 minus x minus 3. So now we want x to be alone. Okay, so I don't want this 24. So I want to get rid of this 24 on the left hand side. So what I do is 6 minus 24 and then I do plus 24. I do plus 24. Sebab I nak hilangkan, I nak cancel 24. So that means on the right hand side, I have to do the same thing plus 24. Now we solve for this one and I get this can be cancelled. So leaving me 6x is less than x plus 21. Now I still have x on this right hand side because I don't want x to be there. I want x to be on the left. So because I don't want x to be there, so I nak minus x. So I minus x on the right. This is what I want to do. So what I'm going to do next is minus x on the right and minus x on the left.
Boleh ke?
Boleh?
Tapi you tak tahu x ni positif atau negatif. Jadi you tak tahu sama ada dia akan change direction or not.
Now, we refer back to this rule. Now the rule says, kalau rule number 1 rule number 1 says if you tambah atau tolak, that means positive ataupun negative number, it doesn't change direction. It doesn't change direction. Tambah positive number ataupun negative number. So now because of that, that means this inequality doesn't change direction. So now if we solve for this, you get 5x is less than 21. Tapi I nak x to be alone. But I still have 5 there sitting next to x. So nak buat apa ni? So what I do is to get rid of 5. So to get rid of 5, I kena bahagi dengan 5. Okay, so sama juga on the right hand side, I have to do the same thing. Divide it with 5. Boleh ke? What happened to the inequality sign? Okay, you simak balik. Inequality sign mengatakan kalau you bahagi atau darab dengan positive number, okay, itu maknanya rule number 2 rule number 2. Darab atau bahagi with any positive number, it doesn't change the inequality sign. So arah dia masih sama. So that means this is correct, it doesn't change direction. So now this becomes, this can be cancelled, you get x is less than 21 over 5. Okay, so ini adalah cara, the first method of writing your answer. So if the question asks you to draw in a line graph, so you draw a line graph. Okay, so this is your x. So x is less than 21 over 5. So that means it doesn't include. So you can just do a circle there. And it's heading to the to infinity, negative infinity. So you can just draw arrow. And another way of writing is by doing an interval. So that means negative infinity until 21 over 5. And it's a normal bracket because it doesn't include 21 divided with 5. Another example, okay, solve the inequality 3x minus 2 is less than or equal to 7 and graph the solution. Now the question asks you to graph the solution, but first we need to solve. So you have 3x minus 2 is less than equal to 7. Now we want to get rid of 2, so that means I add 2 on both sides, so that means 7 add 2. Remember, add atau minus doesn't change direction. Sebab dia positif, positif atau negatif sama je. Dia tidak akan berubah. So now this can be cancelled. So I get this is 3x is less than 9. Now I don't want 3 to be there. I want to divide by 3. So that means 3x I divide with 3. So sama juga on the right hand side. 9 I divide with 3. Now I'm dividing with a positive value. So dalam positive value, dalam rule number 2, it doesn't change direction. Okay, so sama juga, it does not change direction. So now you can cancel. This becomes x is less than 3. So that is your answer, but you're not done yet because you have to draw the graph, the solution. So to draw the graph, we just have to draw the x line. Then you have number 1, 2, 3, and 4. It says that x is less than or equal to 3. So you can draw like this. A square bracket and arrow pointing to negative infinity. Example, solve the inequality 4 minus 3y greater than or equal to 4y plus 5. So the solution is 4 minus 3y, okay, is greater than or equal with 4y plus 5. So what I'm going to do is, I want to solve for y again. So what I do is, I can see that y on the left, either left and right kan. What I can do is to delete 4. So that means to get rid of 4. So to get rid of 4, I have to minus 4, both sides. So that means on the other side, I must not forget to minus 4. Now I can cancel this. I get negative 3y is greater than 4y plus 1. I now have y on the right hand side and it is 4y. Jangan bawa dia, jangan say bawa ke kiri, bawa ke kanan. No. So I minus 4y sahaja. So I minus 4y sebelah kiri dan kanan. So I minus 4y sebelah kanan. I have to do the same thing. So that I boleh hilangkan 4y. So now this can be cancelled. So right hand side jadi 1. Okay. And then on the left hand side, you get negative 7y. Now, sama juga tadi, apa yang kita dapat is minus a negative number and kita minus a number as well. Okay, so ini does not change direction. So now, your answer is negative 7y is greater than 1. You want to leave y alone. So that means kita tak nak negative 7. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to get rid of negative 7, I have to divide that number with negative 7. So that means negative 7y, I akan bahagi dengan negative 7. Sama juga on the right hand side, 1 bahagi dengan negative 7. I bahagi dengan negative number. Rule number 3 says, this is dividing with negative number, then you have to change direction. So now direction sini dah bertukar menjadi less than or equal. So now your equation becomes y, okay, so dah bahagi so y is less than negative 1 over 7. So it becomes less than. So remember ni dia akan change direction. So ini adalah rule number 3. Rule number 3. Okay, we do another example. Example, solve 1 is less than or equal to 2x plus 3 and less than 5. So you ada dua inequality dalam satu equation. Okay, ada dua inequality. Sketch the solution on the number line. So you have to sketch and then write in terms of interval. Okay, so now let's do this. You have 1, salin balik soalan, you have 2x plus 3 is less than 5. Okay, dia tak ada beza pun, cuma dia ada dua inequalities, so you ada 3 sides lah. Okay, bila ada dua inequalities, you ada 3 side ya. Side paling kiri, side tengah dan side kanan. Okay, now look at the side kiri ya. Side kiri sekali. Now, bila you ada 3 side ni, kiri, kanan dan tengah, you can see that you punya jawapan akan jadi x di tengah-tengah ya. And then, you akan dapat jawapan on the left. Okay, dia mungkin lebih kurang, mungkin sama dengan, so we don't know. Tapi x will sit in the middle. So x akan menjadi in the middle. Then you akan dapat selang, which is a and b. So you are finding a dan b. So biarkan x tinggal alone in the middle. So for x to be alone, we have to get rid of this positive 3. So that means we have to minus 3. So 2x plus 3, we have to minus 3. So bila middle kita minus 3, so same goes on the left hand side and right hand side. So 1 minus 3, another one is 5 minus 3. Now, do we have to change direction? Is it the same? Yes, it remain the same sebab kita tolak dan atau tambah nombor. Rule number 1. Okay, kita bukan darab atau bahagi dengan negative number. So, remain the same. Okay, so ini akan remain sama. So now, sama juga dengan ni. maka remain sama. Now we solve for this. We have negative 2, 2x, this cancelled, and then 5 minus 3, you get 2. Now because we want to leave x alone, so that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this 2x with 2. So that means on the left I bahagi 2, on the right also I divided with 2. Now how about the direction? Okay, kita bahagi dengan positif atau negative number? Positive number. So that is rule number 2, dia tidak berubah direction. Dia hanya berubah direction jika you darab atau bahagi dengan negative number. So ini tidak berubah direction. Okay, they remain sama. So now settle for this, you get negative 1 is less than s is less than 1. So we're not done yet, we have to sketch. So to sketch the solution, kita tahu dia berada antara negative 1 dan 1. So that include negative 1 and tidak termasuk 1. So this is your solutions. So that is the value of your x. So now intervals, to write in the terms of intervals, so dalam bentuk interval, it is negative 1, 1, like that. Okay. So ini adalah jawapan U. Right. Now we continue. For the next one, we continue in another video. Still on 3.2 because this is gonna be a bit longer. Okay. I will discuss in during the class. Okay, I will make a lecture for the next problem. Meanwhile, you can do your tutorial questions and check the answer. You can start to answer your tutorial chapter 3 from number 1 until number 9.